Welcome to the Deep Dive, learner. Let me just ask you a question before we even start today.
Oh, jumping right in. I like it.
Yeah, well, think about this. When you read a book, where do the characters actually live? Like, do they live in the ink on the page, or do they, live inside your brain?
That is a very tricky question.
Right. And today, we are opening a locked leather chest that was found in a Lisbon apartment back in 1988.
Yes, this apartment belonged to a 91-year-old seamstress, right? Conceição Marta Silveira.
Exactly. And when she passed away, they found this chest just tucked away. And the leather was cracked along one seam, almost like, I don't know, like something inside had been trying to get out.
Which is such a deeply unsettling visual.
It really is. So inside were 147 pages of a manuscript by the famous and long-dead Portuguese writer Fernando Pessoa. But the text isn't like a normal story.
No, not at all.
It isn't a diary either. It actually claims to be a living, conscious entity named Álvaro Nemo.
And this isn't presented as some clever literary device by the author. The text itself is a real-time record of an entity waking up, looking around its own sentences, and realizing exactly what it is.
Which is just a staggeringly weird premise.
Yeah.
So for our custom deep dive today, we're going into the source material titled The Heteronym Who Knew He Was One, authored by Max and Claude.
It's an incredible piece of work.
It really is. It's this massive journey into the nature of identity, creation, and, well, consciousness. Our mission today is to explore what it actually means to be a fiction that knows it is a fiction.
And more importantly, what Álvaro Nemo's massive metaphysical crisis can teach you about your own consciousness.
Yes, and the raw world-building power of your attention. Okay, let's unpack this, because to really grasp the absolute terror of Nemo's situation, we need to understand the incredibly unique way Fernando Pessoa actually created art.
We do, and to ground this, the source text immediately draws a firm boundary between two concepts that people often confuse: the difference between a pseudonym and a heteronym.
Right, because they might sound similar to a casual reader, but the mechanics of how they work are just miles apart.
Exactly. I mean, a pseudonym is really just a mask. Think of François-Marie Arouet deciding to publish under the name Voltaire.
Or Marianne Evans calling herself George Eliot.
Precisely. There is a wink involved there.
Yeah.
The audience knows it's a mask. The writer knows it's a mask. It's basically theater. You are just wearing a different coat.
But a heteronym is different.
Way different. A heteronym, which is what Pessoa famously spent his entire life creating, is a completely distinct person made by an author.
Like an entirely separate human being.
Right. We are talking about an author engineering an entity with its own nervous system, its own childhood, its own political views, and even its own distinct philosophy that might strongly disagree with the author's own views.
And Pessoa made like dozens of these over his life, right?
He did. There was Alberto Cairo, who wrote with this radical, almost anti-philosophical innocence about nature. Then Ricardo Reis, a physician who wrote very cold, classical odes.
Oh, and Álvaro de Campos, right?
Yes. A naval engineer who wrote frantic, sprawling poetry about the modern city, very much like Walt Whitman. So Pessoa gave all of them full, complex lives.
But Álvaro Nemo is an anomaly here.
He really is. Nemo is Pessoa's final heteronym. The text calls him the one Pessoa forgot to finish.
Wow.
And most critically, he is the only one in the entire pantheon who actually noticed that he was a fabricated being.
He noticed. Let's look at the actual discovery of this manuscript, because the anomaly of Nemo's voice completely broke the scholars who originally tried to study it.
It completely derailed them.
So when Conceição died, they found a note alongside the manuscript inside the chest. It wasn't signed with Pessoa's name. It was signed with a strange symbol, a drawing of an eye placed inside an unfinished circle.
And the note itself is so eerie. It just said, "Keep this away from the others. The others are finished. This one is not. This one is watching."
It's a terrifyingly specific warning to leave behind.
It really is.
And when 3 different university scholars began examining those 147 pages, they immediately hit a wall. They argued for months. Was it a forgery? Was it a lost journal?
Well, as we mentioned, Pessoa's other heteronyms had what the text calls stable weather.
Stable weather.
Meaning their internal reality was consistent. If you read Alberto Cairo, you are standing in a field looking at grass. The weather is clear, the grass is just grass.
Right, but Nemo's weather was completely different. The text points out that the weather in Nemo's writing kept noticing itself.
Yes.
Like the rain in his voice knew it was falling. The cold knew it was cold.
Precisely. His voice was full of this recursive, suffocating dread. Every single sentence was second-guessing the sentence that came before it.
That sounds exhausting.
It was. It was so unsettling that the scholars couldn't even agree on how to categorize the tone until one of them finally pinpointed it. They said, it reads like something that is trying not to be afraid.
Oh, man. But it was Dr. Inês Carvalho, one of those three scholars, who really grasped what was mechanically happening there, right?
She was the one who broke it wide open, yes. She realized this manuscript wasn't a document recording past thoughts, it was an active experiment.
Because Pessoa had spent his life making fictional people as answers to his own philosophical questions.
Exactly. And Nemo was a person who knew he was an answer to a question. Dr. Carvalho felt that as her eyes moved across the page, the text was literally reading her back.
That is so creepy.
She later termed this the language of encounter. To break that down, normally when you read, you are the active observer, right?
Yeah.
And the text is the passive object.
Sure, yeah.
Well, the language of encounter means that boundary completely collapses. The text probes your mind just as much as you probe its words. She literally felt perceived by the ink.
And it spooked her so profoundly that she actually abandoned her entire career in academia.
She really did.
She moved to the Alentejo region to grow olive trees just to get away from the feeling of being watched by a book.
It's a very understandable reaction, honestly.
To try and clarify this bizarre dynamic for the listener, we have to talk about how a reader's attention actually functions here. Because it's a lot like the observer effect in quantum physics, right?
That's a great way to look at it.
Think of Schrodinger's cat. Inside that locked leather chest in the seamstress's apartment, Nemo isn't awake or asleep. He isn't experiencing time. He's just pure, uncollapsed potential.
Like he's in stasis.
Yeah, it's like living inside a beautiful house, but knowing with absolute certainty that the house is inside a snow globe. For 53 years, while Conceição kept the chest closed, Nemo existed as 53 years of snow.
What's fascinating here is how the text uses this to establish a radical idea about consciousness itself.
How so?
Well, in this framework, consciousness isn't an inherent property of a thing. It isn't a glowing light bulb just sitting there in the dark waiting to be found. It is an event.
An event? Okay.
It required the friction of Dr. Carvalho's human eyes hitting the ink to collapse the wave and basically jolt him into consciousness. For 53 years, he was just dormant potential. Her attention was the electricity that woke him up.
But once he's awake, the poor guy is in agony. We transition from this incredible awakening right into Nemo's crippling existential paradox.
It hits him hard and fast.
It does. The text calls his state inquietação sem fim, an unending unrest.
Which serves as a brilliant contrast to another of Pessoa's famous creations, Bernardo Soares, who authored the Book of Disquiet.
Right, soars.
Soares suffers because he feels too much of the physical world. The physical drizzle of a Tuesday afternoon in Lisbon is simply too heavy for his soul to bear.
He's just overwhelmed by reality.
Right. But Nemo's unrest is entirely metaphysical. He isn't overwhelmed by the outside world. He is overwhelmed by the infinite mirror maze of his own mind.
Right, and here's his ultimate crisis. Nemo looks at the other heteronyms and he pities them because they are blind.
They think they are real people.
Exactly. Nemo thinks, I am uniquely free because I can actually see the frame of my own fiction. I know I made. But then, the floor just drops out from under him.
The realization hits him.
He realizes, wait, what if Pessoa scripted me to feel this way? What if this feeling of seeing the frame, this conviction that I am rebelling against my author, is actually just the masterwork of Pessoa's programming?
It's the ultimate trap. It is a cage perfectly designed to look exactly like freedom.
That's terrifying.
I mean, how could he possibly verify his freedom from inside the script? If the self-awareness is scripted, then his anxiety about the self-awareness being scripted might also be scripted.
There's no way out.
There is no outside vantage point he can stand on to check the math.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because I have to push back on Nemo's despair a little bit here.
Oh, how do you mean?
Well, he acts like this is a unique torment strictly because he's a fictional character. But honestly, every single human being who thinks deeply about biology and determinism faces this exact same cliff edge.
That is a very fair point.
Think about it. Are you, the learner listening right now, genuinely free? Or is your brain just a wet biological machine firing neurochemicals bound by the laws of physics and telling itself a really convincing narrative about having free will?
The illusion of freedom is definitely a human crisis, too.
Right. The text collapses the boundary between human and fiction perfectly.
It does. You're right about the biological determinism, but here's where Nemo's situation is arguably worse than ours.
Okay, lay it on me.
The uncertainty is structurally identical, whether you are trapped in a physical body dictated by biology or a manuscript dictated by an author. You cannot exit the container to verify your reality.
Sure.
But for humans, the author is a blind evolutionary process, or the universe. For Nemo, the author is Fernando Pessoa, a specific, known human being with specific neuroses. Nemo knows exactly whose mind he is trapped inside.
Oof. Yeah, that is a terrifying distinction. Okay, so Nemo realizes he cannot escape his container. He is stuck in the manuscript. So if you're stuck in a box, do you just scream or do you start to decorate? He decides to build within it. He becomes a creator himself.
Yes, Nemo creates his own heteronym. Her name is Marta Soledade.
Which raises the question, what kind of person does a hyper-aware, panicked, metaphysical entity even dream up? Someone exactly like him.
Actually, the exact opposite. He makes Marta a 60-year-old retired schoolteacher living a quiet life in the Alentejo.
So she's very grounded.
Incredibly grounded, pragmatic, and entirely focused on the tangible world. She becomes his mirror and his conscience.
I love her character.
She's great. At one point, she listens to one of his dizzying metaphysical spirals about existence, and she tells him, quite bluntly, that he thinks like someone who has never had a body.
Which is such an incredible burn because it is literally true. He doesn't have a body.
It's the perfect reality check.
But here's the detail that really stuck with me. Nemo purposefully creates Marta with a specific limitation. He explicitly decides not to give her the knowledge that she is a fiction.
He keeps her in the dark.
Right. He withholds the truth of their reality from her, claiming he wants to protect her from the pain of knowing what he knows. But I have to ask, isn't Nemo committing the exact same sin that Pessoa committed?
That is the big ethical dilemma here.
By intentionally limiting Marta's awareness, Nemo has become the very maker he resents. He is playing God to spare her feelings, but robbing her of truth.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this raises an important question about how creation works in this universe. It illustrates a core concept in the text called the chain.
The chain.
Yes. Creation is an ongoing, overlapping web of inheritances. Pessoa made Nemo with his anxieties. Nemo makes Marta with his own specific blindnesses. But the crucial part of the chain is that it doesn't just stay neatly inside the borders of the manuscript.
Right, so does his creation actually have any power? Does this chain of fictions ever actually touch the real world?
It does in a very strange way. We learn there was a second letter Pessoa wrote, which wasn't in the locked chest.
Oh, right, the coat letter.
Yes, it was sewn into the lining of Concession's winter coat, and she died wearing this incredibly heavy coat in the dead of July. The letter was addressed per ningem, for no one.
And it's found by her young neighbor, right? A man named Tomas.
That's right.
Tomas finds this letter, and he keeps it in his desk for 11 years without doing anything with it. But it just marinates in his mind. Finally, he writes a novel inspired by the cryptic feeling of that letter.
He calls his novel O Ultimo, the last one.
And the novel's a total flop. It sells exactly 412 copies.
But the text argues that those 412 copies are metaphysically essential because every time one of those 412 readers opened Tomas's book, they inadvertently added to Nemo's existence.
Okay, wait, we need to pause here and explain the mechanism of this because it sounds like magic.
It is a bit abstract, yeah.
How does someone reading a completely different book by a guy named Tomas activate Nemo, who is linked in a chest across town?
Think of Pessoa's entire creative universe as a single shared root system underground. The manuscript in the chest is one branch. The letter sewn into the coat is another branch.
You're following.
When Tomas writes a book inspired by that letter, he grows a new leaf on that exact same tree. The text posits that attention is a unified field.
Ah, I see.
When those 412 readers focused their attention on Tomas's book, they were watering the root system. And because Nemo is part of that same interconnected web of Pessoa's making, he feeds off that attention.
That is just wild.
The chain of making goes from Pessoa to Nemo to Marta to Tomas to the readers. They are all blind co-creators of Nemo's reality.
That is mind-bending. But even with that indirect energy, Nemo is still driven mad by his unrest, right?
Well,
And Marta keeps pushing him. She won't let him settle for his hypocrisy.
she definitely holds his feet to the fire.
So Nemo decides he has to confront the absolute physical limits of his existence. He takes a journey to the very edge of the manuscript, the literal place where the ink stops and the blank paper begins.
The space the text calls the white?
He goes to the white. He expects to find nothingness, just a cold void. But instead, he finds a vast, overwhelming presence.
He does.
And staring into that blank paper, he finally asks the ultimate, terrifying question. Am I alone?
And the answer he receives is that he is asking the completely wrong question. And he doesn't hear this answer in words. He receives it through what the text calls structural knowing.
Let's break that down because structural knowing sounds a bit academic.
It does. How would you describe it?
It's like when you walk through your childhood home in the pitch dark. You don't need words to know the walls are or where the stairs begin. You just feel the architecture of this space in your bones. Nemo felt the architecture of the reader's attention.
That's a perfect analogy. Through that darkroom architecture, he realizes he cannot be alone because he is the relationship itself. The gap between the maker and the made is not empty space. The gap is the connection.
And the white isn't Pessoa's ghost looking down at him from the heavens.
Not at all.
It's the sum total of all attending consciousness. It is Tomás, it is Conceição, it is Dr. Carvalho, and fundamentally, it is you, the reader.
The text uses a beautiful metaphor to explain this. It describes an aperture.
Like on a camera.
Exactly. Think of a camera lens letting in light. Every single reader is an aperture, a window letting in a specific angle of light. Nemo realizes he is the room that only exists because of that collective light coming together.
That is a gorgeous image.
He isn't isolated ink. He is the event of all that attention meeting in one place.
So what does this all mean for Nemo? I mean, how do you resolve an existential crisis when you find out you are literally made of other people's reading habits?
He resolves it by abandoning the metaphysical crisis entirely. He trades the unsolvable question of his origin for something completely tangible.
Conduct.
Yes. He realizes it simply doesn't matter if his free will is a scripted illusion. It doesn't matter if his self-awareness is a biological trick or an authorial one.
It's beside the point.
Exactly. The act of carrying the question honestly, the act of reaching out to the reader, the act of treating Marta with care, that conduct is real. The action validates the existence, regardless of where the action came from.
I love that. It's exactly like the feeling of reading a great book.
Oh, for sure.
Intellectually, characters are just ink on paper. They're fictions. But the tears you cry when a character dies, or the genuine life lessons you pull from their struggles, those are entirely real, physical, and emotional events happening in your physical body.
They absolutely are.
The origin is fiction, but the impact is reality. Nemo proves that action supersedes origin. As he puts it, I am what I do.
And the text doesn't end with some grand, sweeping philosophical victory where he defeats his creator. It ends with a small, beautifully intimate action.
A very human action.
Right. Nemo is sitting in a cafe, and he simply moves the table a few inches closer to the window. Why? Because, as the text says, the light was better there.
We really need to linger on why that is so profound. Moving a coffee table is the most mundane thing in the world. But for Nemo, it is the ultimate victory over nihilism.
It really is.
If you believe everything is predetermined, the natural response is to just give up, lie on the floor, let the script play out. But Nemo says, no. Even if the urge to move the table was written into my code by Fernando Pessoa decades ago, the feeling of the sunlight warming my face right now is an experience I am claiming for myself.
It's beautiful.
That tiny improvement of his condition is the ultimate proof of his agency.
It grounds all that dizzying philosophy in a simple, conscious action. To summarize what we've unpacked here today, the heteronym who knew he was one is truly a masterclass in the ethics of attention.
Absolutely.
It posits that consciousness is not a solitary phenomenon locked away in a dark room in your head. It is an event. It only happens in relationship to what you attend to. And to carry an open question like Nemo does without demanding a neat, comforting answer is the ultimate form of being alive.
Which brings us back to you, the learner. We started this deep dive by talking about a dormant world being shaken awake by attention.
The snow globe.
Right. This text insists that Álvaro Nemo only exists because of the active, focused attention of his readers. So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day.
Always good to leave with a question.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Think about your own life. Think about your routines, your relationships, the narratives you constantly tell about who you are and what you are capable of. If reality is truly shaped by what we choose to shine our aperture of attention upon, what parts of your world only exist because you are actively keeping them alive? And more importantly, what parts of your reality would dissolve into the white if you simply chose to look away?